Have you ever heard a song that felt like it was written just for you? A song that lifted you up when you needed it most? For millions around the world, that song was likely written by one man, Bill Gaither. But this isn't just a story about music. It's a story of unwavering faith, relentless innovation, and the incredible power of resilience. From a small town in Indiana, a young Bill Gaither, born March 28, 1936, had a passion for harmony that couldn't be contained. Born into the heartland of America during the Great Depression, Bill's world was shaped by faith, family, and farming. Alexandria, Indiana, was a place where community was everything, and the local church was its cornerstone. It was within those walls that a young Bill first discovered the power of four-part harmony. He'd listen, captivated, as the congregation's voices rose together, a sound that felt more like prayer than performance. This wasn't the polished sound of a trained choir. It was the raw, heartfelt praise of farmers, teachers, and mechanics, each voice distinct yet unified in a single purpose. That sound, the tenor reaching for the heavens, the bass providing a bedrock of faith, became the musical DNA for everything he would later create. His parents, George and Leila Gaither, while not musicians themselves, nurtured his budding passion. They saw the light in his eyes when he sat at the old piano, trying to pick out the melodies he'd heard on the radio. They couldn't give him formal lessons, but they gave him something more valuable: the freedom to explore and the encouragement to follow the music he heard in his soul. This wasn't just a hobby, it was a connection to something greater. When Bill went to Anderson College, his vision started to take shape. He convinced his sister Mary Ann, whose clear soprano voice was the perfect counterpart to his own lead, and his brother Danny, whose solid bass foundation anchored their sound, to form the first Bill Gaither Trio in 1956. They started small, playing at local churches, dusty tent revivals, and community potlucks. They'd pile into a car, traveling from town to town on winding Indiana roads, their only payment often being a home-cooked meal and a collection plate offering. But they weren't chasing fame. They were sharing a message forged in the heart of their own community. Their heartfelt sound was pure, honest, and stripped of pretense. It was the sound of family, of shared belief, and it resonated with people because it was real. In these early days, Bill learned a foundational lesson. Music wasn't about performance, it was about communication. It was about looking people in the eye, sharing a story, and connecting on a human level. This grassroots ministry, built one small church at a time, was laying the groundwork for a movement that would soon reach far beyond the borders of Indiana. The most pivotal moment in Bill's life, however, arrived in the form of a brilliant, poetic young woman named Gloria Sickle. A teacher with a master's degree in French, she possessed a gift for language and saw the world in verse and metaphor. When she and Bill met, it was more than just a meeting of hearts. It was a divine collision of melody and lyric. They married in 1962, and so began one of the most prolific and impactful songwriting partnerships in music history. Their process was a beautiful, symbiotic dance. An idea might spark from a phrase in a sermon, a struggle shared by a friend, or a simple observation of nature. Bill, the intuitive musician, would sit at the piano and find a melody that captured the raw emotion, the joy, the sorrow, the hope. Gloria, the meticulous wordsmith, would then wrestle with the words, refining and polishing them until they perfectly captured both profound theological depth and the relatable human experience. This is how an empire of classics was born. He Touched Me, a song that would be famously recorded by Elvis Presley and win him a Grammy came from a moment of profound spiritual renewal Bill experienced while accompanying his friend, evangelist Dr. Doug Oldham. The simple, powerful declaration, "He touched me, oh, he touched me, and oh, the joy that floods my soul," became an anthem for anyone who had ever felt lost and then found. Perhaps their most iconic song, "Because He Lives," was written during a time of immense personal and national turmoil in the late 1960s. The nation was fractured by the Vietnam War, the drug culture was exploding, and theological debates were sowing division. Personally, Bill and Gloria were navigating a difficult pregnancy and were filled with anxiety about bringing a child into such a chaotic world. It was in the midst of this fear that Gloria penned the immortal words, "How sweet to hold a newborn baby and feel the pride and joy he gives. But greater still, the calm assurance, this child can face uncertain days because he lives." They didn't just write a song. They wrote their own prayer, channeling their fears into an anthem of hope that has since been sung in countless languages, from grand cathedrals to humble hospital rooms. Their words didn't just fill hymn books. They became the prayers whispered in moments of despair and the shouts of joy at baptisms. Together, they earned the title of Christian Songwriters of the Century from ASCAP, not just for the quantity of their work, over 700 songs, but for its enduring, life-altering quality. But Bill was never one to stand still, content to rest on past success. As the 70s gave way to the 80s, he sensed a shift in the musical landscape. The traditional quartet sound, while beloved, wasn't connecting with a younger generation. To reach new hearts, the music had to evolve. So, in 1981, he created the Gaither Vocal Band, a revolutionary concept that blended traditional gospel harmonies with a contemporary flair that shook up the industry. It was less about a rigid four-part structure and more about assembling a powerhouse of virtuosic talent. The lineup became a celebrated revolving door of the greatest voices in Christian music. There was the comedic genius and warm baritone of Mark Lowry, the soaring stratospheric tenor of David Phelps, the soulful powerhouse vocals of Michael English, and the everyman warmth of Guy Penrod. Each combination created a new dynamic, a fresh sound that kept the music vital and exciting. Their intricate harmonies, jaw-dropping solos, and electrifying stage presence proved that gospel music could be both deeply reverent and absolutely exhilarating, both timeless and thrilling. They broke the mold, showing that worship could be artistically adventurous and full of life. Then came the 1990s, and with them, one of Bill's most beloved and unexpected creations, the Gaither Homecoming series. It started almost by accident during a recording session in 1991 for what was supposed to be a simple performance video. For the grand finale, Bill brought together legends he'd admired his whole life, people like the indomitable Vestal Goodman, the smooth bass of J.D. Sumner, and the iconic Jake Hess. After the formal recording was done, someone started playing an old hymn on the piano. Spontaneously, these giants of the genre gathered around, and the studio filled with the sound of impromptu, joyful worship. They began sharing stories, laughing, and singing the songs that had defined their lives and ministries. As the cameras kept rolling, Bill knew instantly that this raw, authentic moment was something the world desperately needed to see. The homecoming videos became a cultural phenomenon. They weren't slick, overproduced concerts. They were raw, authentic gatherings of friends around a piano. They felt like a family reunion, and the world was invited. Bill became the gracious host, a master of ceremonies who built a bridge between the past and the present. He celebrated the rich heritage of gospel music by giving a platform to the pioneers who had paved the way, introducing their stories and songs to a whole new generation. For many of these legendary artists, the Homecoming series sparked a career renaissance, bringing them newfound appreciation and allowing them to share their gifts with a global audience once more. It was a beautiful tapestry of stories, songs, and laughter, reminding everyone that a legacy of faith is a treasure to be shared. Beyond the stage, Bill was a quiet visionary. He built the Gaither Music Company from the ground up, an integrated hub for record labels, concert booking, television production, and copyright management. He wasn't just a performer, he was an architect, meticulously shaping the very foundation of the modern Christian music industry. In an era when artists were often at the mercy of secular record labels that didn't understand their message, Bill's vision was to create a self-sufficient ecosystem for gospel artists. This model protected the genre's unique message and provided opportunities for both established legends and up-and-coming talent. He was shaping the business to serve the ministry, not the other way around, ensuring that the music and its message would always remain the central focus. Yet, his incredible journey wasn't without its trials. He was a global icon who performed for sold-out arenas, but he was also a husband and a father to 3 children. This grounding in family was his anchor, a source of unwavering support that kept him centered. This became especially crucial as he faced significant health challenges over the years, including persistent issues with his vocal cords that eventually led to his retirement from performing in 2024. The man whose voice had led millions in song had to face the possibility of silence. But even when his body told him to rest, his spirit refused to be quiet. He credits his enduring strength to his unwavering faith in the very message he spent his life singing about, and to the constant love of his family, his brilliant partner Gloria, and their 3 children, Suzanne, Amy, and Benji, who were his rock through every storm. Today, Bill Gaither's legacy is more vibrant than ever. The Gaither Vocal Band continues to tour with new members, carrying the torch of vocal excellence. The homecoming spirit lives on through television, radio, and a new generation of artists who were inspired by its authenticity. The countless young musicians he mentored, hired, and encouraged are now leaders in the industry. The seeds he planted in a small Indiana town have grown into a sprawling global forest, influencing artists from contemporary Christian bands to mainstream stars like Amy Grant and even rock legend Elvis Presley. His life is a powerful testament that with faith, innovation, and a song in your heart, you can overcome any challenge. From humble beginnings to global recognition, Bill Gaither's story isn't just about a career, it's about a calling to gather people together, to remind them of what matters most, and to fill the world with the unwavering, transformative promise that because he lives, we can all face tomorrow.